The Vatican Doctrinal Office has issued new norms on the procedure to be followed when there are alleged supernatural events or apparitions in a diocese. The norms replace those of 1978 when Pope Paul VI was in office. The main change is that from now on, the Vatican Doctrinal Office will not declare whether these events are real. At most, it will be possible to issue the so-called nulla osta, that is, an affirmation that indicates that there are no doctrinal inconveniences or evidence of deceptions. The Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith has established more concrete norms on the authority that diocesan bishops and bishops' conferences have in these cases. Generally, the bishops will have set up a commission with at least one theologian, a canonist, and an expert who can study the phenomenon in question. A delegate of that commission and the bishop will issue a statement that will be examined by Rome. Once the verdict has been studied and issued, the bishop, in agreement with the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, will make the result public. Another purpose of this document is to accelerate the processes of examining supernatural events to provide an answer to the faithful as soon as possible. Modern media facilitates a rapid diffusion of information on these events, making it more urgent to issue a response. The Church's involvement in alleged supernatural events or apparitions has shifted. Rather than stating if a supernatural event is true, the Church will simply clarify whether or not there are frauds or doctrinal problems. And it will take note of the presence of the so-called pastoral fruits, such as conversions or instances where faith is deepened.
This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. The Vatican is tightening their rules on what is a supernatural phenomenon. Now, as you heard, of course, the Vatican isn't going to specifically say that this is supernatural, but what they will do is they'll remain silent, or they'll tell you that it potentially could be real, or it is real in their opinion, when they decide to fake something in the sky using Project Bluebeam, because that's what all of this is leading towards. There are a lot of stories out there right now about the Vatican who just announced what these new statutes are in regards to fake news and what is credible and what is not credible, and how a divine apparition should be confirmed or not confirmed, and they will be the authority on that. Now, there's lots of things to talk about in regards to this, but if you're not familiar with Project Bluebeam, now is the time to get familiar with it. The world government, which is in place behind the scenes, is planning on creating a fictional event in the sky. This fictional event could be something along the lines of an alien invasion. It could be something along the lines of a fake appearance by Jesus in the sky, or a different God in the sky, the Antichrist in the sky. You name it, it's in the works. A potential fake rapture event occurring in the sky. The government is planning on doing it. They've been planning on doing it for about 5 or 6 decades now. It's been in the works. And the reason they're going forward with it now is because of the dependency on technology and, of course, the generation after generational effect of dumbing down our society to the point where they will believe whatever they're told if it's by the right people that they trust. And, of course, even though ultimately this New World Order runs directly through the Vatican, the majority of sheeple out there trust in the Vatican. They've been trained to trust in the Vatican. The Vatican is obviously going to be the one responsible for creating this fake alien deception or whatever they choose to do in the sky. So they're coming out and they're saying now that the vetting process for apparitions, the Vatican is nixing supernatural labels. The Vatican is going to discern what's real and what's not real. And of course, they're going to do this by saying, look, we're not going to tell you what's real and what's not, but we'll just tell you what we think is not real. So they're putting in 6 different prudential conclusions will be given depending on the case, insisting that as a rule, these conclusions do not include the possibility of declaring the phenomenon under discernment is of supernatural origin. That is affirming with moral certainty that it originates from a decision willed by God in a direct way. So they're telling you without telling you what is going to occur in the sky, whether it's real or not. People will be waiting. They'll be waiting to find out if some fake event in the sky is actually a sign from God. And when the Vatican confirms that it came from God and says, well, we're not going to tell you directly that it's divine, but we'll tell you that it's likely from God. It's not fake. It's not altered. well, then people will start obviously believing it. So it's just more confirmation that they're closer and closer to using Blue Beam. And again, this is what I worry about. This is why I continue to do this, is because I generally care about Christians, whether they be lukewarm or not. I don't want to see our fellow brothers and sisters deceived. And we obviously see how easily deceived they can be. They're not understanding scripture. Their 501c3 churches are leading them into literally being in bed as we speak with the synagogue of Satan themselves. And a deception like this, if they're not familiar with what the government's been planning, they're going to be duped into thinking that these are divine events from God. I've warned about weather modification, weather manipulation, geoengineering, etc. for a long time. And most of you could see how many Christians come here and are offended by the notion that the devil and his minions can manipulate the weather. They ultimately still want to say that God's the one who's doing this or not doing it. God is the one ultimately in control. God is allowing these people to do what they're doing because God gave us free will. God gave us the ability to discern what's true and what's not. And the Bible talks a lot about deceptions, a lot about the devil and what his plans are. And we need to be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. Now, in regards to what they're setting up here, remember, I talk a lot about how both the conservatives and the Democrats, there's certain things that they both have to be duped into. When we just had with the magic potion, the reason Trump released the magic potion was to initially dupe the conservatives. Obviously, that narrative has changed because they've seen the feedback from conservatives out there. And you've noticed Donald Trump is completely not mentioning warp speed anymore. He's not mentioning anything about it anymore. In fact, he's anti the magic potion now. Why? Because they don't want him to lose his stranglehold over the minds of all the conservatives out there. Okay, because it's essential to prevent an actual revolution for them to stay in bed with people that they've put in place to lead them astray. And that's what Trump is. So when we talk about the conservatives and the Democrats, the alien deception is going to be part of it. You may have noticed a lot of government agents like Tucker Carlson continue to talk about UFOs and aliens. They're continuing to work their audience into thinking that the government is hiding, ultimately hiding this information from the civilians. Now they're starting to mix in potentially aliens being demonic entities. They're starting to use that because the truth of the matter is that demons are real and aliens are fake. Aleister Crowley wrote about this, how eventually in the future demons would be called aliens. They'd be called something other than demons. And that is where the word alien has come in. The actual image that we all have perceived in our mind of something that we've never seen with our own eyes is of what an alien looks like, which is a gray. This all comes back from Aleister Crowley's teachings. So News Nation is another alt-right type of media that's out there that people, it's real news, etc. Listen to what they aired talking about the alien deception that is coming and how, did you know that the Vatican actually has information, that they're hiding information about a UFO that landed right over in Italy? And the Vatican knows aliens are real. And well, you can just see where this is headed with massive deception. But here is a clip that aired in regards to the new Vatican update on supernatural guidance. And of course, how, these things are really occurring. The government's just been hiding it. But now we can rely on the Vatican to give us the ultimate truth, which, of course, is the ultimate deception.
The congressman said he believed the Vatican knows that extraterrestrial life exists. He was very confident. I know you've been following this for a very long time. What do you make of what the Vatican is saying this morning?
Well, I've only found one news site actually reporting that it was going to mention aliens, and they didn't attribute that data point. If you look at the website for it, it limits itself to talking about apparitions and related paranormal phenomena. And it's supposed to be kind of an update of protocols that the Vatican had for handling cases like that. So they only started a few minutes ago. You have them there live right now. So haven't really had the chance to hear what they've said or to see the document itself. My guess is that it will probably not mention aliens. I would be surprised if it did, and all things are possible. But I think it's going to focus on apparitions and the kind of paranormal phenomena that often accompany apparitions. So by apparitions, we mean people who claim to see Jesus or the Virgin Mary or angels or other saints, sure, and sometimes to hear things as well.
So is there evidence of angels and aliens being one of the same? Do you believe that could be true, sir?
I think what we're encountering right now in the UAP studies is probably different things. There are a few things that I think are seem to fit a demonic profile, but I don't think the majority of them do. Others, I suppose, could be angelic sightings, but I think it likely that we're talking about some other things too. Genuine extraterrestrial intelligence, perhaps intelligent species that are crypto here on Earth. I think it could be a lot of things, and maybe angels are one of them, but we'll have to see.
Dr. Thigpen, I'm curious here. How do you prove an apparition, especially to non-believers out there?
Well, it's maybe hard to prove to non-believers in some ways, but
Sure.
but the kind of evidence that that the appropriate officials would gather would be first to try to determine the facts of what happened. So somebody reports that there was a light in the sky, that others see it. Is there, any other evidence of it? Is the truth being told? The people who are making the report, they would want to look into their background some. Do they seem to be people of integrity? Could there be medical or psychological issues there, so that to try to rule out things like hallucination or even hoax, counterfeiting? They look at the content of it to see, what's being said. If someone claims, for instance, makes a claim like God and Satan are the same being or something, they would say, yeah, that's probably not divine. And also just verifiable information. If somebody says, okay, the Virgin Mary came to me and said that on such and such a date the world will end, and it didn't end, that's pretty good evidence, that it wasn't true. So there are more. People don't realize, I think there are many more apparitions that the Vatican would say, nope, we don't have
Sure.
evidence, than those that it would approve. Those are few.
Which just started a few minutes ago. But David Grush, he told News Nation special correspondent Ross Coulthart the Vatican was in possession of a UFO aircraft from 1933. Do we have time to listen to that, guys? Yeah, here it is.
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle. The Italian government moved it to a secure airbase in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945. And, the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
Dr. Thigpen, you also spoke to David directly about this. Do you believe the Vatican has been covering up proof of extraterrestrial life?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word cover up. You have to think about the historical circumstances. If it happened, there's no way I can know for sure. But I certainly take David at his word, David Grush, that he was given that information. He also, said to me that certain documents have been published a couple of decades ago that, are alleging this. And you look at those and you say, maybe they're not so convincing. But David says he has for additional evidence. He's not just depending on that. So given that, I trust his testimony.
So you could see where this is headed, right? I've got to love how they use the year 1933, because that's always coded right in front of us, right? 33, of course, is their number. 33, 1/3 of the fallen angels, right? Put in 1/3, you could do it on a calculator, 333. Okay, 33, 1/3 of the fallen angels. That's what that number represents, 33 in Freemasonry. 33 is a significant number in the occult. Of course, it's believed that Jesus was murdered at the age of 33 by the same wicked forces who are in control now. So, for those of you who are trying to figure out what something with Project Bluebeam could potentially look like, let me show you a couple of clips of a fake event in the sky. And remember, their technology is so far advanced that it'll be very easy to deceive people. But something along the lines of this in the sky that Christians will believe is a sign from God. And you could see how the government is wearing everybody down, right? We see what's going on in the world. Everybody's saying, as in the days of Noah, I say it all the time, right? We could see the world just headed to hell in a handbasket. So it's clearly a very easy time for the government to deceive the masses, because Christians are waiting for a sign. How many Christians comment they're waiting to get raptured away today, tomorrow, the next date set? And they continue to put their hopes that we're, in the notion of a rapture occurring. Now, what I'm saying is we need to watch the actual enemy here and how they can manipulate vulnerable people who are looking to the heavens for a sign every single day. Because that's ultimately what the government wants to do, is they want to deceive Christians. So this is what Project Bluebeam would look like, something along these lines.
Allah hadir. Allah hadir. Allah hadir. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, semakin jelas. Semakin jelas, ya Allahu Akbar.
Okay, so something like that looks very, very real. And again, what we just saw with the solar flare and what we've seen them do is manipulate the skies above, creating fake aurora borealises, et cetera, et cetera. They could do whatever they want in the sky. They've been doing it for quite some time, manipulating the sky. They've been running tests all around. And I believe that the solar flare was a test to see just on a mass scale how they could spread this across the entire Earth. And we saw that. We saw this fictional solar flare going all around the Earth. And of course, we saw them coming out deflecting that it wasn't harm. Now, here's another clip I just wanted to show people to show you how frightening this is. This is a clip of a blue beam-like effect that was projected fire in China. Okay, they did this in a 5D cinema where you could actually feel the heat and smell the flames, and they simulated a fire. You could see the people sitting in the seats are obviously not running out because they know that it's fake. But look how realistic this is. So again, that looks extremely real. The types of tech, what they're capable of doing, no, that's in a theater, I get it. So it's probably easier to simulate it, but the sky, with the geoengineering that's going on, they're creating a screen in the sky, okay? With HARP and these other things that the government has been experimenting with for a long time, they're able to create this fake fictional event in the sky to deceive people. And again, I've used clips in the past, my previous video on Project Bluebeam, with the Vatican, where I've used a bunch of different clips. I'm going to use another clip in here so you have a different perspective on what the government is capable of doing in regards to creating Project Bluebeam and using beams in the sky to deceive the nations, right? And think about it from the perspective of how dumbed down people are in this day and age, where we actually have the government fact-checking everything that we're all saying, right? How many of those blue boxes pop up under almost all the videos that I do, right? Now, I don't know if they have a Bluebeam box yet, but I'm sure they will in the future now that we're getting closer to Bluebeam occurring. We've all talked about Bluebeam for a long time, right? We had the event down at the mall in Florida I covered at the end of last year, even though I'm brand new to YouTube. And we've had a lot of things that potentially made us all start saying they're getting closer and closer to Bluebeam. Now, we could officially confirm with what the Vatican is doing here that the Vatican and this organization inside the organization, right, this group that they're going to use of cardinals, et cetera, are going to sit there and decipher what's real and what's not, what could potentially be a sign from God. And that is preparing people out there to start seeing signs and wonders around us. But don't forget what the Bible says. There are many verses about fake miracles, but specifically Matthew chapter 24, verse 24. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. In Revelation chapter 16, verse 14, for they are demonic spirits performing signs, who go abroad to the kings of the whole world to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. There are going to be many, many deceptions. These are all going to be government-created deceptions, and that is why I continue to warn about this. Here is a clip just for anyone else out there. If you want to see more clips on Bluebeam, here's just another explanation of what it is.
Don't tell him what I'm about to say and see if he knows about it.
Okay.
So what we do is we play with our own forces, make sure our trickery will work on the enemy. And those are directed energy weapons of where we do intersecting beams or focus beams into the atmosphere. And notice they're always in the atmosphere to excite the electron orbitals of the oxygen and nitrogen in our atmosphere. And it causes a glow and it causes ionization. That ionization shows up on radar and it's like a cat laser pointer. And we're making planes chase them.
That's exactly how they describe these things moving, like laser pointers.
Yeah, and so we can do it in 3 space. We can make it look like...
in 3-dimensional space.
Yeah, and we can make it look like an entire fleet is about to drop bombs on, let's say, Europe, and then just have them disappear. And they get all their planes up in the air, and we attack them from the other direction, assuming we're attacking Europe.
Who is doing this? The Navy, you said?
Somebody. Let's just say a group, you know.
And you know this for a fact.
I know for a fact, yeah. So anyway, don't tell your guests.
A group within the U.S. government.
Yeah, okay, we'll leave it at that. Yes.
And is this something that could be seen with the naked eye? Or
yes,
is this something
because
that
it glows. It glows. So it would be seeable. You can see it by the naked eye, and it would leave a radar trace. So it's perfect as a deception. And it involves the voice of God weapons that I was talking about.
Project Bluebeam does.
And this got leaked. So it probably won't have the effect, and they probably won't do it. But if you wanted to bring the world together, as President Reagan said in several UN speeches, you would have a common enemy like evil aliens attacking. We forget our differences and we fight against it. So
we wouldn't look at each other as Chinese or Russian or American. We'd look at each other as Earthlings.
It's humans. Yeah, as Earthlings. And so that was Project Bluebeam, was to trick the human race into believing either God is coming down, everybody hears the voice of God, the microwave hearing effect, get along, give, whatever the new message is, or it was going to be the evil aliens attacking. And notice how they, all of a sudden, all the governments release all their information on UFOs, and there's a whole division dedicated, and that's just deception.
So earlier in the video, I said this is just confirmation now that Bluebeam is going to be used. And that is exactly what this is. Why is it confirmation? Because the Vatican is letting you know that we're going to start seeing signs. And the Vatican is going to be looked to as an authority on whether or not these things are manipulated via AI, whether these are things that are just natural occurring events, or if they're signs from God. And we could sit here as people who are fully awake and we could say, well, we know when this comes, it's going to be fictional. But there's so many people out there that do not have a clue about Project Bluebeam. They do not have a clue about the Vatican. They do not have a clue about Israel, right? They don't have a clue about the major players in this. There are a lot that think that they know. I've talked about the QAnon movement. I've talked about how the government created that. Think about how many people now that we see that talk about similar topics, that think that they're awake, that are stuck in the left-right paradigm, okay, that believe their vote counts, think that they understand, and all these types of topics that we discuss, who actually believe that the government is hiding UFOs from them, that actually believe in a lot of these things that are being deliberately done to gaslight them into believing in actual government psyops. And that's what we're headed towards. People who are awake trying to explain to people who think that they're awake of what's actually occurring here. Now, we know that many people out there have been trained into believing in an alien phenomena. This has been going on for a long time. Nobody wonders why all these movies continually came out from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Every month there's a new alien type movie out there, all with the same plot. Nobody out there goes, boy, why do they keep making this? Right? Why do they keep? Because they're conditioning you into believing something that's not real. There's more people that actually believe in UFOs, despite the technology that we all have now. Nobody's seeing anything, right? We know demonic entities are real, demonic forces are real, but there's people that believe in the UFO stuff and then look at us and go, they believe in a fictional fairy tale God, right? When there's signs of God's existence all around us every day. In fact, there's literal signs that the governments around the world have hidden from us that show us specific places where God is actually, where biblical events have actually occurred, right? Lots of things hidden over in Saudi Arabia. Lots of people, there's lots of studies out there where people believe that they found the Ark of the Covenant. They found Noah's. There's lots of stuff out there that they have hidden because they don't want people to believe that the Bible is real. They want you to think it's all fictitious. If people actually saw that these places were real, instead of going to Disney World and they went, hey, we're going to go out here and see, this location of where Noah's Ark ended up, it would make people suddenly say, wow, this is real. Here's real proof of God's existence. But they don't want that, of course. They want you to believe in fairy tales. And fairy tales start and end with alien deceptions. I've showed you the speech by Reagan before. This has been long known that the plan ultimately was to fake an alien invasion. And now with the Vatican on board in telling you what could occur in the sky, could be a sign from God or not, it tells us that not only can we expect an alien invasion simulation in the sky, we could also probably guarantee that there's going to be some type of fake message from God that's going to be used, whether it's the Antichrist or a fake rapture event, where they try to tell us that it's actually a sign from God himself. And these people will believe it, hook, line, and sinker. They've been trained to believe it. They're looking for answers. The government knows that this mass psychological operation that's going on right now has caused so many people to lose hope. It's caused so many people to look and beg every day for a sign from God because things on earth have gotten so miserable. The government knows that. They're the ones who are making people miserable by design. That's how psychological operations work. So more and more, if you've been paying attention to this, and I know a lot of you have, a lot of you listen to a lot of different channels, right? How many channels have went from just talking about God to then suddenly just talking about signs from God to talking about rapture dates, and everybody out there just constantly looking up, hoping for an answer. And nobody out there wants to believe that anything in the sky would be a government simulation. And it's not because it can't be proven that it's a government simulation. They just don't want to believe it. And it's the same with the weather modification. They don't want to believe that the government has the ability to do this. They just go, that's a sign from God. You're giving the devil too much credit, right? But the Bible warns us so many times about deceptions, about fake miracles, like I read earlier, right? Matthew chapter 4, verse 24 again, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. People are going to fall for this. And the technology we've just seen on a small scale, what they're capable of doing in the sky. Okay? Some of the things that I've shown you in the past, even in my recent video about Blue Beam in the Vatican, where you see outside of casinos, some of the things that they're showing you up in the sky, outside of gaming conventions, and people are in amazement. That's just what they've shown you. And anybody can look at that clip. That clip of a fake Messiah in the sky is pretty realistic. And if you saw that with your own eyes in your backyard, you would freak out. Okay? Even if you're prepared to look at this stuff and realize that it's Blue Beam or the government, you're still probably going to have goosebumps. You're still probably going to stand there and be like, holy crap, when you see it with your own eyes. And that's why we have to be prepared not to fall for deceptions, because they're planning on deceiving many. And that's why people like me and you have to continue letting people know, even Christians out there who refuse to believe the wickedness in the world, they refuse to discuss these things. They don't want to believe it because they don't want to give power to the devil. Right? But it's not giving power to the devil. God gave us free will. This is Satan's realm, okay? And the Bible constantly talks to us about great deceptions. And you don't think that the Vatican is going to be, it's perfectly set up for the Vatican to be the one who literally leads all these Christians off of a cliff, leading in some type of fake event in the sky that they will believe is a sign from God when it's not. It's a sign from the devil, or perhaps the Antichrist itself. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.